Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrican, coming to you on this Thursday, September 11th, as we see Rhode Island FC exit the Jagermeister Cup, falling to Sacramento Republic in penalties and ending their shot at glory. Can this season be salvaged? Or will it all come down to a do-or-die match this weekend against Indy 11? To discuss that and so much more, the one and only Jason Carey. Jason, I don't even want to do the show tonight.
I can't blame you. That was a pretty deflating loss. I feel like my neck's a little sore. Like trying to track that wayward penalty shot. I just overextended it and just kind of got to do some yoga stretches or something to kind of loosen up the neck there. But hey, real quick shout out to Tide Talk. They invited us to do a live episode over at High Motor Grill right before, and honestly, it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we were like, hey, if we make it to the final, we should do this again. Guess what? We're not going to make it to the final. So, hey, love to do it again some other time, but if you didn't get a chance to be there or haven't gone and listened to it, definitely go check it out.
It probably was the shortest episode we've ever been a part of, with Matt and Ryan always constantly reminding me to stop interrupting and make sure that we got that done on time. Kudos to them, maybe more the professionals than we'll ever be, because we like to run long. Tim McDuff asks if this will be the shortest episode. Well, we won't be able to beat that preview ahead of a game, but we'll try to make this one as quick and as painless as possible here as we get through this. Let's get straight to the news, Jason. I didn't do slides tonight. I was literally in such a mental lack of desire to build this show today outside of our run of show, our detailed notes to talk about, that I just said, you know what, graphics, we don't need no stinking graphics tonight. So it's just going to be our beautiful faces all night.
To be fair, the majority of our listeners are audio only. So, sorry to the people watching along, but we'll throw up hand gestures to make up for it. But have you ever seen Total Recall 4, where Matthew Corcoran gets recalled from Rhode Island FC? I think we all knew this was coming. When I look back at it, probably 4 or 5 games of this, and I'm trying to think, clearly he's a good player. He made some good passes and stuff, but did he ultimately add any value to the team in the short time with us? Because we are oops all midfielders. Did we need him? If anything, we did him a favor by playing him so that he could get ready for the Youth World Cup.
You could argue,
but what did we get out of it?
You could argue that he came in a moment of need where we were a little lighter, didn't have maybe the depth to go the distance, if you will. We knew Corcoran was a Kano guy, and maybe Kano had told himself hey, this is a guy I'll be able to use for the rest of the season. No coach goes in gun to their head saying, oh yeah, I know I'm going to have this guy for a handful of games. No one expects and I know the fans they were coming at me over the week on X saying, the recall, you quoted that he'd be here for the long run. And if you go back and pull the quote, you'll see that I said, barring an injury or any other reason where Nashville's bench gets light, there is no reason he's not going to contribute to any final push, whether it was post-Leagues Cup, it was just getting their season across. They were well established in their playoff hunt, whether that was a home or away berth, still to be determined. But I said it came down to injury, and that may be exactly what happened here. Alex Mule did get injured in his last game at the end of August. They've had the MLS calendars all over the place. They have 3 bursts now of games, and then they have these breaks, the international breaks in between,
and they just juggling tons.
So Mule goes down with an injury, and he's arguably one of their best midfielders. And so now Corcoran suddenly gets reactivated to come back to Nashville, whether that's to be a bench rotation or just to help out in training and small side, just to be a competitive force for the squad. It makes perfect sense. Now, does that mean that we knew that was going to happen? Of course not. You can't predict those kinds of things. So it's not like I don't understand why Kano would go out and get this guy. It's a bet. It's a gamble, right? It's not a for sure thing on any loaned player. I understand why Nashville did what they did, and maybe they warned us ahead of time that don't get used to him through the initial press release. But like you said, Jason, looking back at this now, because we get the privilege each time of hindsight. we can talk about it at length when it comes, and it has arrived. Did Corcoran, was this all worth it to go through this motion? For Corcoran himself, I think he was the best. You could say it was the worth it for him, but for the fans who didn't really get adjusted to him yet, I'd say he made an impact, but what impact did that actually result in? Did he leave this with more questions because we were building around him and we were letting him integrate into a system? I just wonder if this was, will Corcoran leave a lasting impression?
Probably not. I think if he goes on to be a legit good player, us Rhode Island fans will be like, oh yeah, remember when he played 5 games for us? And we'll do the joke RIFC legend, that kind of thing, when he's like a starter in the U.S. men's national team in 5 years or something.
I didn't even think about the calculations here. I should have ran the table on it. I wonder who played more matches between Corcoran and Panayiotou. I know Panayiotou dressed for more matches, but getting actually into the squad, especially as a starter, I think Jack only had one additional start on his second loan back down in that Pittsburgh game we love to talk about all the time.
Yeah, he was basically riding pine that second half.
We'll have to pull up and see who had more starts in their life career with Rhode Island FC. So, hey, listen,
speaking of midfielders, oops, all defenders.
Listen, if you're Coach Cano and you're going to want to improve the offense, the first place you start, of course, is in signing an additional defender, as RIFC announced on Tuesday that they had signed 23-year-old Senegalese defender Hamady Diop to a multi-year contract. The transaction is still pending league and federation approval, but it's important to note that it was completed prior to the championship roster freeze on that Monday, September 8th. The number 1 overall selection from the 2023 MLS Super Draft, Hamady joins the Ocean State club following stints with Major League Soccer's Charlotte FC and the newly minted San Diego FC. Head coach and general manager Cano Smith went on to say, Hamady is a well-rounded defender who is effective in possession and will give us balance and control as we progress attacks. His skill set as a left-footed center back and experience in the MLS will add quality to an already strong defensive unit. Jason, make this make sense. Diop was targeted. He came in. San Diego made him one of their key selections in their expansion draft, where they get to steal players from other teams. I think you only get 5 of those. So they were looking for something specific from Diop, either his youth and his ability, and for that to scale. They saw an immediate talent and something he could have as an impact to this team. Obviously, it doesn't really pan out. He had a little bit, around about 300 minutes in the regular season, and he played through some of the League's Cup matches. I got roasted online for saying sizable minutes, not knowing what that word means, because size does matter when you're in the Ocean State. Overall,
I thought that was
thoughts
only
on this
Connecticut
guy?
where that mattered. To be fair, I think compared to a lot of other people's experience, you could argue, fine, sizable, but whatever. But the reality here is, so we got him in before the freeze. He's clearly in the similar vein to Matthew Ndogo. This is a player for the future. The reality is, depending on how the rest of this season goes, there could only be 7 more games. And at this point, we're going to have some exodus probably at the season. I don't know at this point who it is. Players like Aldair and Joe Jaya, they have options, but their contracts end at the end of the year. So, what does that mean for them?
Do you think suddenly they're going to be? I'm playing a lot harder for these contracts, assuming they have options, assuming and that's a fair question too with this arrival. It's very interesting. We make the joke about what if we got some more forwards, but let's also look at the way we've stacked the sides of the pitch. We are still absent a true right wing back or right back to take and occupy that right flank. We now have 3 players, arguably of similar qualities, maybe different abilities, but similar qualities, who could all potentially be starters either pretty soon or at least in the near future. Why does this team continue to feel so lopsided? We're too heavy in the back. We're too, shifted over to the port side. What is going on here with this team?
It's hard to say. Is Ugo Bacharach maybe a future right back? I don't know. With Stoneman coming back. Like he got pushed to that right side, if I remember correctly, right? So who knows?
Tim McDuff does write in on the chat. Did he play any overlap with Nate Silvera at his time at Crown Legacy? According to Transfer Market, they did play at the same time before Silvera came over in the 2024 season. So there is definitely an opportunity
So
here.
Officer Silvera hooked it up and let us know about him.
He's still giving the reports from afar. Hey, I mean, listen, in this league, it feels like sometimes it's who you know, not what you know, right?
Yeah.
All overall, though, you said a second ago this is similar to Ndongo and a signing for the future. I think that's mostly true. I would argue a little bit maybe back that I think he has the ability to make an immediate impact to this team. You don't get starts in the MLS, even if it's, you know, a few substitution moments or starts in the Leagues Cup against Liga MX teams looking to make deep runs without having some natural talent and ability. So I do see, unlike Ndongo, where we may not see him again for the rest of the season, I very much could see Diop making some sort of transitional shift into this, either starting 18 or starting 11. What do you think? Do we think we'll see Diop by the end of the season in sizable minutes?
I think we'll see him. It's hard for me to envision where he gets a lot of minutes, especially when the strength of this team has been the back line and the goalkeeper. So, you know, why break that up when we're struggling to score?
Well, we can at least argue that maybe we'll see him when Quizera goes back out for his next Rwanda international duty break here at the beginning of October. You ready to get into this recap?
Sure, why not?
Misery loves company, my friend.
Let's rip off that Band-Aid.
So Rhode Island FC's shot at glory, like we mentioned earlier, sputters and dies in front of a home crowd of a few thousand, falling in a late fall night, falling in fall, right? You can't hate it at Centerville Bank Stadium. First drawing 0-0 in regular time, and then losing to Jared Mazzola and Sacramento Republic in PKs. Jason, I predicted the 0-0. I even went as far as trying to be optimistic and saying maybe Rhode Island could do something they've never been able to do in winning a PK shootout. I had the faith, but if you had told me that we wouldn't find the back of the net a single time in an elimination game that would go to PKs, I don't know what I would have told you. Of what kind? We're not at the tragedy anymore. We're at the farce. We're at the comedy of this now. And I feel like all that's left about this season is that you just laugh at it and you just roll with the punches.
Yeah, just write a old English style tragedy of RIFC second season. But I saw you put up a stat in the Discord, which, like, seeing that percentage is like, are you serious? The chances of failing to convert a single PK are around 1.4%.
It's only happened three. So in the professional stats that I was able to go into the database, because we have some access, and so I went and pulled it. And at least in the biggest tournament, because it's also harder to find matches that would go to penalties in the first place. So just taking a snapshot at the World Cup, since the data has been collected, and at the Euros, it's only happened 3 times.
Oh, you
3 times.
Hate to see it. I mean,
we're making the impossible possible.
This is their second meeting against them this year, and we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net one time. Like, I would have even counted a penalty in that regard. So, like, sure, it's maybe not a goal, but we put the ball in the back of the net. Another cursed stat here, which you know, as soon as the coin toss or whatever figured out the order, 60% of the time the team that goes first wins. So as soon as, you know, Sacramento stepped up to take that first one, I'm like, we're already not great at penalties. This is not looking too great for us. You know, like I also predicted us to, like, finally get it together in penalties, but you know, we also haven't really shown that we could do it. I was hoping that the magic of the cup would kind of put a fire under this team, and for the most part, we have performed well in this competition. But
have we, though? I'm only kidding, but like, and the reason I say that is I have a joke written down where it's like, technically, and Rhode Island FC Communications, I love everyone that works in that department, but they put a stat into, like, the press release for the after game action, and they were like, Koke Vegas gets his clean sheet, his 5th clean sheet at home. You know, that would imply that this team went unbeaten then. And we said that earlier in the Hartford match when it went to PKs, and we let that slide because it was group stage. But now, if you're going to stand on that, you know, if you're going to stand on your principles here, you would then be arguing that somehow this team got knocked out of a tournament while also being simultaneously unbeaten. And that's a frustrating thing to have to kind of cope with. I also said on the Discord earlier, it's also frustrating to know that Hartford is now in a final, and we had every chance to shut them down by just winning that PK, and they would have never been able to based on tiebreakers and the way that would have worked in the inner machinations of the group stage. So it's just like all around, it's hard to feel good right now. Yeah,
100%. To see that they're in a final.
100%. Did you feel confident, by the way? Because like after Maxi missed that, Mr. Cold as Ice, and I just was like, this is bad.
As soon as he didn't convert the first one, I was like, this is Jover. Like like I said, with that, no, I already knew that 60% stat because I'm crazy. As soon as that happened, I was like, okay, you have to make that to give yourself that opportunity to be part of that 40%, unless like Sacramento was just going to have a complete meltdown, which they took out Loudon in penalties. Like we knew that, like we should have known that getting there was probably actually the worst way to win the game. We needed to win that game in full time, because honestly, if you look at their offense, while they've had some explosive games, for the most part, they're not an explosive offense. They've only given up 17 goals this year. That's how they win games. You score one, you don't let in any, boom, you're done.
I had a friend who I reached out to me. He was out from Boston, and he's like, "Hey, I've heard all about the team. I know that you're a podcaster, you cover the team. Can I come out and see the game?" And I didn't have any tickets to give him, and so he's like, "I'll just buy some." And I reached out to the community. You guys, thank you, by the way, for those of you that helped me get tickets for my friends. They came down, and I checked in with them at halftime. They're like, "Well, okay, it's a great environment. It's a great vibe. It's a good time. I'm having a great time. Would like to see a goal tonight, though." I was like, "Well, you may have to wait for penalties." And I said that. I walked away and did my thing. And then he sent me a text afterwards as we went to the press conference, and he goes, and I'm going to read it verbatim here, but he joked and said that he thought JJ Williams should try out for the Patriots with that penalty he took, and didn't realize that he himself would go to a game where he wouldn't see a single goal for the team he was rooting for in a penalty shootout. So he also said it must be a really unfortunate time to be an RIFC fan, because he can't imagine that that's something fun and exciting to be doing on a Saturday night when there are other things to do around the city, around the state, around New England. And I have to kind of start agreeing with him. We've said it a long time now that it's not about the results, for me at least. I mean, obviously it's important, but I just want to be able to celebrate goals. I don't know if I know the lyrics to the Talking Heads song anymore. I don't even think I could tell it.
What song are you talking about?
You know that song that we allegedly play when we score a goal?
I'm not sure.
We'll get back to it at one point. We'll have to put the lyrics back up on the screen for those that have forgotten. But hey, listen, I want to move on to this part, and I just want to talk about the overall effect of this team and what it's doing to the fan base, what it's doing to themselves. I don't want to talk anymore about how great this team is defensively and how they can run their hearts out for 90 minutes and they can put in a tremendous amount of work and then not get anywhere with it. I just don't care anymore. I don't want to do this with you. I don't. It's the equivalent of it's the equivalent of, do you remember when we were back in school and you would take a test and like you knew the answer? Yeah. But to make sure that you weren't cheating, you would have to establish like the proof of your work. You'd have to show whether it was math, whatever subject it was, you would have to do that proof of work. I feel like this is where we're at, but in the complete opposite with Rhode Island FC. They put all of this work in, they showed the proof, the formula is correct, and then the answer is completely wrong because we're not getting a result and nothing's happening that we can be happy about with this team. Like I said, like the RIFC communications, and Koke had a great game. Let's not be 4 saves, definitely kept this team in the match. But like, I don't feel like this. I don't want to say this is a good team anymore. I don't want the sum of the parts to be a negative and then pretend like we're doing okay. We are not okay, Jason. This team is not okay. It's time to admit it, and it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. Rhode Island FC isn't just floundering; it is spiraling. And if they don't pull up on the yoke right now and get this plane leveled out, it's going to crash and burn into the earth here in just a short few weeks.
I mean, after the game, like sometimes we'll definitely hang out with fans. We'll talk, and it kind of felt like a wake in a sense. We were like you mentioned this, brought up this last night. Like, we can't keep saying these are good performances, just the results aren't manifesting. It honestly, it's not good enough. Like, you speak about entertainment. Like, the most fun I have at these games is just talking to my friends, and then look over at okay, yeah, we missed another scar. I'm like, they are not giving me a reason to be glued to the game because they're not going to score. Like it's almost it's telegraphed. And to be fair to them, they did move the ball quicker yesterday, right? There was some really good 1-2 movements, and after that first half, I felt like this is looking pretty good. This is more of what we need. This is how we're going to create those opportunities to score. Koke stood on his head, put in a shift, and kept us in that game. Our defense has been incredibly solid, but we cannot score a goal.
You either have to go with the volume approach and put a bunch of chances in there with a poor touch and a poor ability to convert, or you have to be so dang good. You have to be so clinical that the 1 to 2 to 3 chances you get, you find a way. And right now, I don't know where we're at in this. I don't know if we're between those, if we're more on one side or the other, or if we're not even on the charts. But like you said, it's just not fun anymore. It's like Heartbreak City most times, where you see the ball coming up. I'll give a technical observation that I saw for the minutes now that Busy's gotten a few extra starts here now in his second start. He holds on to the ball too long. He's very good at taking on defenders, and he often can break the ankles of maybe the first defender, even the second, but he was getting collapsed on time after time, and no one was there to help him. No one was there to support him. Again, the midfield felt disjointed from the forward attack. And I'm not saying that's Busy's fault, but like, it was like, Busy, you're not going to get the support you need. So my guy just passed the ball because you're just going to run into traffic. And then I don't think it's your fault. But like, again, if I can see that, I know Maxi can see that. I know he's got a better vision for the game than I do. I know JJ can see, like, what is holding this team up from supporting each other and helping them be a better group, a more cohesive unit together?
It's like that. Have you seen that picture, the meme of the drawing of the horse? The back of the horse is perfect, and then you get to the front, and it's just like a 3-year-old drew it. That's our defense. You move up to the field, and that's our attack.
I actually think that's the perfect metaphor or analogy for
because
this team.
It doesn't make sense. We see everything is just working so smoothly. We're working the ball up the field. Our defense is lights out. They're keeping us in the game. They're giving up the opportunity. Amos is, working his butt off to like hound after people in the ball. And then we get the ball to the front, and then they're just like trying to do step overs, and they just lose the ball. And we're like, okay, cool.
That actually really makes sense. I mean, and for the first time, by the way, we've seen a lot of fans now complain last night at the stadium, online all day, is that they think that we're stacking too many defenders in the back to begin with. They think that one of the problems with the reason our attack is so lackluster is the fact that we play a back five. We don't really play a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 in transition. It's always a back five, and they're never given the permission to really move forward. I would say the heat map would argue with that. Our wing backs are definitely, or our outplay
wide midfielders.
Yeah, they're getting out there.
Depends who is out there. Yeah.
But I also understand the feeling of this team just always gets suffocated and suppressed, where, if they're not on some sort of explosive break, they're absorbing that pressure. And then when they start playing their possession game, they're just passing it backwards, not really making those big moments of advancement. Because again, when it's possession, it just seems slower. It was faster last night, but it feels a little bit slower. You talked about, we mentioned the burn pit last week on the episode. I'm really ready to burn something on the center of the pitch at Centerville Bank Stadium. I really am.
Are we, like, at this point, are we cursed? Do you know any shamans or anything?
The whale bones that are underneath that stadium have cursed us. I'm going to say it. If the team doesn't want to admit it, we're cursed. We need to get this curse lifted.
Okay, so we need a seance to lift the curse of Centerville Bank Stadium.
Defiance needs to request a midnight meeting, or like whenever the harvest moon is at its peak, whether that's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m, and we need a seance and an Olympia. We need all the sage in Rhode Island burned in one single spot, and we need to get this. We need to get these vibes restored, as Sean is saying there.
Yeah.
But listen, you guys don't want to hear us talk. Everyone wants to hear what Coach Cano had to say. We did post last night. Kind of turned the corner in accountability, but wasn't really a great interview. Probably the shortest one we've ever had. It just didn't feel like we were going to get anything from him. So
he was
all of the reporter pool just said, we're not going to waste our time, because
he's visibly frustrated.
Yeah. So here's Coach Kano in his own words, and you guys be the judge of how he was feeling on the night.
Not to score again. Yeah, the PKs were what they were, but we got to score goals. We got to score goals at home. But yeah, very disappointing not to score goals at home and go out of the competition. But we got to move on to Saturday quickly.
Coach, are those PKs just a lack of confidence? Because those guys are obviously better.
PKs are a lottery. It is what it is. Nobody's lacking confidence. It's a PK. It's 12 yards.
Do you need to rethink the PK system?
No.
For the 90 minutes, what did you see? What did you like? What kind of frustrated you?
Didn't score. Just said it. We had chances. We didn't score. Need people to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's on me too. But I thought we had the better chances. Didn't score.
Connor, is it just down to the individual performances now of key players? Is it?
No, I'm never going to throw individual players under the bus. It starts with me. It's no player's fault. We didn't score. I'm the head coach. It's my fault.
What I meant to say is with some of the additional players, you now have Diop coming along. Will that help you adjust some of the momentum and the tactics that you want to change to be able to find the back of that?
Diop's a left-sided center back. He's not going to score goals for us.
Understandable. He may offer things that create, chances in the box.
He gives us balance going forward, the ability to pass through the lines. He's excellent at that.
Now that the tournament's over, your overall thoughts on the format, in season, etc.
Yeah, I don't want to get into discussing the format of the tournament. It was good for us. We got to the semifinals. I'm sure the league will reevaluate how they want to do the tournament or whatever. But we got no complaints. We had 2 knockout games at home. No complaints about the format. I'm sure it can be improved, but we just lost. I'm not thinking about the format of a tournament.
You've talked about short-term memory for your players, but this is one of those potential opportunities to have gotten hardware now. What do you have to tell this locker room going into this next regular season match, trying to get back into the playoffs here Saturday?
Yeah, we got to rest and recover first and foremost. They're human beings. They're going to have to get over the disappointment of losing fairly quickly because they have a game on Saturday. And the best thing about when you go out of a competition is you have a game to put it right on Saturday. So they need to rest, recover, mourn, whatever way they need to mourn and get over this and be ready for Saturday.
That was Cano Smith. Again, short answers, kind of laced, in my opinion, with a little bit of vitriol. Didn't seem really interested in discussing, and I get it. It's a sad moment. It's maybe an angry moment. When he shut me down, what I was going to try to complete and say was, in addition to Diop, I want to talk about Corcoran. I want to talk about the adjustments and if Dwayne is making the impact, but he cut me off in the middle of it. So at that point, it was just like, we're done here. We're not going to get much out of it. Jason, the big talking point, though, is he's starting to take accountability for the first time as a head coach in these conversations. Most of the time, he's deflected and said, I don't really know what's going on. I have to take a look with my technical staff and figure out some things. I need to rewatch the game to come to some conclusions. This was kind of the first time where it felt like he hit the wall. I don't know if that had to do with the fact that now out of the tournament or more to the fact that he really, truly is out of personal inquiries on adjustments and just has to kind of eat this one on the chin.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he's throwing up his hands like, I don't know what to do to a certain extent. And, in the heat of the moment, he was a player too. He clearly incredibly frustrated. But it is concerning that, we are 7 games left in the year and this team still struggles to score goals consistently.
I would even change this at all, let alone consistently. We could do an entire, episode analyzing what would be consistent when you have 16 goals across 23 matches. I mean, I don't even think we could say from a PPG perspective that's even been consistent. I feel like we've again, you think about the 3-goal games we've had against Tampa and Oakland, those go into it. It gets a lot worse suddenly when you think about multi-goal games versus single goal games. What I'm more curious now is if he's at the responsibility level of starting to take this on his shoulders, and he's always obviously been the leader. He's just not saying that in front of the camera. Now that he is, does it feel like his runway is getting shorter for himself to make these adjustments? I'm not talking about Kano out. Again, he's not leaving this year. Next year, we can open up that can of worms at a different time. But like when you look at what he has left, does it get into experimental phase now, or because there's still an opportunity to make the playoffs, does he need to figure this out, and he need to figure it out yesterday?
It's so weird because this team is like the 4th best defense in the league, so we can keep ourselves in matches. It almost feels like it'd be harder not to score sometimes. Like a lot of these teams, just you cause some chaos in a box and you accidentally put the ball in the net. That doesn't always lead to results, right? A lot of teams, a defense can be very difficult to kind of muster at times. It really feels like, and we've been talking about this forever, which is the problem, that it's just a little snap, a switch, and it all will work. But how come it's taken 4 months to figure? I don't know what the answer is. Like, we saw faster ball movement from them, but like also they need to do that all the time. And I think maybe to a certain extent, 8 shots isn't terrible, but go for 15, take some shots outside. Like, they need to be braver, I think, to a certain extent.
Braver, faster, more clinical. They need to look forward instead of backwards. There's a lot of things this team needs to be, and you
braver,
think
faster,
by now,
clinical. Love that Daft Punk song.
It's my favorite. You'd think they'd figure this out by now, but it looks like we still continue to spin the wheels. It's like a hamster. We're just running as hard as we can. Amos is in that hamster wheel, running as hard and as fast as he can, and we're just not getting anywhere.
Going nowhere fast.
All right, let's talk about the lineup really quickly and then move on to our next segment. Just because I think there's a key couple of pieces here that we would want to just break through on how Kano constructed this team overall.
Yeah, 2 player changes here. We see Koke Vegas in net, with Grant Stoneman make a return to the starting lineup in that back 3 with Karifa Yao and Ugo Bacharach. Midfield 4 there of Clay Holstead, Amos Shapiro Thompson, Mark Ibarra, and then Aldair Sanchez out there on the left. A front 3 of Maxi Rodriguez, JJ Williams, and Dwayne Atkinson, who also made a start there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was great to see Stoneman return in. I still think that's going to be one of the storylines of the rest of the year to watch. Stoneman is a Kano guy, and if he's healthy, he believes he's the one to start. But then you look at Ugo Bacharach, you look at Ame Mabika, now sidelined on the bench, didn't even get activated in this game. And then Karifa Yao. I will say this right now, Karifa Yao had a monster of a match. He was everywhere he needed to be. He was slide tackling. I think he at one point almost did such a hard slide tackle that he slid through, I want to say it was Roro Lopez, and almost like stopped at Neil Collins' feet. And then he just got back up and sprinted back to his spot in the center column there. So flowers to him. It was great to see Frank Nodarce get a return to the game. We didn't even know he would I had heard that he was back into 5-a-side, but I didn't know that he was at full training, and he got sizable minutes. So he went straight for 30 minutes on that. I got really excited, Jason, when Darce came in. We saw Clay finally shift back to a more central role, and I was like, this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for.
This is the unlock we needed.
8 minutes later, Nadarce has to drop back for Harivo coming in, and Clay goes right back out to the right wing. And I was like, okay, that was, hey, in those 8 minutes, we didn't get scored on. We didn't score anything, but maybe we can just keep trying that a little bit more. But overall, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do here. I think Diop, if he actually has the impact I'm hoping he does, he's going to make it even tougher for that back 3 to be predictable.
But you were saying earlier, though, is the problem that we're too reliant on this defense? Do we need to take one of them out and put in another midfielder or something? Defense is not the problem.
I would say, yeah, we should, but where's the right back to do that? Danny Rivera gets no playtime. So if you were brave enough to play Danny Rivera, go to a back 4 and let them be your wingers that can move up and not go all the way up, but then overlap,
play
whatever that needs to be.
Version of
tuck into the center when you're shifting an overload on one side, so that will release one of your holding 6s. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's possible, but Kano doesn't seem interested in playing a back 4 system. But I do think that when we are in this back 3, I think that there's this realization that we commit too many numbers back to not bail out the back three, but like to support them, because the shape can't contain an oncoming attack as well as we need it to. So then you bring those wingers back, and then it takes them longer to get back in the game. How many times did we see JJ go on a sprint, Maxi go on a sprint, Dwayne go on a sprint, and then there was no one else in the box? Like, that'd be a perfect time for a rushing winger to come up and be available, even if it's a cross over, just to redirect and then do
to
a
the
second
other
one
side
back
and
in.
then cut back to the top of the box where a marauding midfielder comes
that
in.
doesn't happen. We don't. I feel like we never get enough players into the box. Between that and the fact that set pieces, just forget it. We have no set piece tactics, and I know everyone was like, please talk about set pieces, talk about the corner kicks. I want to make it really clear right now to everyone that listens, you will not eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich from a corner kick this season. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. You need to be okay with that and just get over it, because it's not going. If it hasn't happened yet, it is not going to happen.
And then if it happens, you're welcome for jinxing it.
Bingo. Bingo.
Really quickly with the lineup, like similar to producer Torn, I thought it was interesting to see Stoneman come directly back into the lineup. Like I said, defense has been pretty solid. Ime has been very consistent. So, I mean, hey, there's lots of options there. With Corcoran out, I was like, okay, haven't we been told that Ugo was a 6?
I mean, he acts like a 6. He ranges like a 6.
So is he's a 6, but we play him in the back line, I guess?
I have 10 photos in the Rhode Island FC hard drive that are all photos of Batrack by himself dribbling the ball. Like, no one's around him.
Did you start the out of context Bacharach, account yet?
We may have to. We may have to. So, Jason, where do we go from here? I mean, I want to ask the hot seat question. I'm not going to ask it because, again, he's not going anywhere. A major milestone has been lost now. We cannot get this piece of hardware. We're down to one last opportunity. I did talk to Koke. I did talk to Koke after the game and said, hey, does this hurt knowing that you are now out of the game and you've now lost you basically lost almost like a final to a certain extent, but you still have the season to go. It's not quite like a postseason run. And then, he was really smart. He was really fair about it. He said, well, we already go through that with the US Open Cup. And I pushed back and said, hey, like, that's a little different. He's like, it is, but it isn't. All we can do at this point is move on. Like, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to be sad and pout about this? Or do you we have to move on? He said, as a leader, he takes responsibility. We have to move on. But like, also too, like, is this going to kill the momentum going into this critical game on Saturday? I dare say a must-win game. I dare say it. I won't say it, but I dare say it.
I mean,
where do we go from here?
With the Jagermeister Cup done and dusted, I mean, RIP. The league is all we have left. Recently we talked about our upcoming matches, what remaining teams were beatable. We've already got on the other side of Charleston and Louisville, and we got 3 points out of that, which honestly not too bad. But yeah, like, it kind of feels like Indy 11 is maybe a must-win game. I think we would not be mathematically eliminated, but I think for the morale of this team, if we get knocked out of the Jagermeister Cup, and then if we lose to Indy, I mean, that feels like season over at that point. I mean, when we look at the basement where we're at, like at this point, the best that I think this team can achieve is 8th place. So Miami has fallen off a wagon. They somehow were at one point like 4th. Now they
sold all their players.
They're at the bottom. Birmingham has not found any consistency. Similar story with the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They've had some random good results, but then they just next week fall flat on their face.
Don't have a 50th anniversary and you'll be okay.
So at that point, that leaves Indy 11, because it kind of feels like if you look at the rest of the table, I don't kind of expect any of those teams to really just die. Like the next up higher position, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I mean, Bob Lilly is a staple in the postseason. Unless they completely capitulate, the only way we get into the playoffs is to take out Indy 11. And we play them this weekend.
So hold on. Okay. And this is why I'm not at must win, but I do believe this is a do or die moment, because mathematically, yes, you can win some more games right now.
We could lose this one and then win every single game. And then
there's no magic number yet, because teams are still all up and down and the point spread is still pretty tight in the back half of the table. Right now, I'm estimating we need at least 12 points to be a viable contender for 7th or 8th place in the table by the end of the season. Okay. When you look at schedule toughness, and you and I did an exercise with Andrew a couple weeks back, we started looking at what was the possibility. We ran some numbers based on the form of all of the teams at that time and looked at schedule toughness. And there is a 1.7 PPG possibility for Rhode Island coming into this final stretch. That puts us at roughly, give or take, the 4th to 6th easiest schedule in the Eastern Conference for the remainder of the season. You could argue, well, that's better towards the top half, or you could say, well, that's right there in the middle. Indy 11 actually have the worst schedule for the remainder of the season across all teams. Ironically, the next one that's just as bad, Detroit City FC, and they're actually already a game further ahead in the table. They're at 24 matches right now. So when you look at that and you do the formula, and if you stick to like 12 is kind of, again, from that 1.7 kind of model, 12 points puts us in 8th place or even 7th if Detroit has a little bit of a backslide, because Detroit may only get 5 to 6 more points for the rest of the season. They got to go through all of the heavy hitters on both sides of the table. They are probably in squeaky bum time right now, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, that's fair. Detroit also loves to just do Detroit things and somehow just, get points when maybe they shouldn't.
But not only the reason this game really becomes the do or die between us and Indy now is, one, they're obviously ahead of us. So this is a 6-point game.
Yeah.
So this is a swinger. And then in addition to that, when you look at the teams that are above us, all of them right now hold tiebreakers over us. Pittsburgh beat us. Detroit beat us by goals scored. That gives us Hartford. We know what Hartford did to us. So really, right now, Indy is the only one, and they also already beat us earlier this year 1-0. So we need to have at least a 2-goal victory over this team just to eliminate any tiebreaker concessions that we would have to possibly make in these rounds. Now, you could argue, could North Carolina just completely drop off the table? We already got the victory. Maybe that's possible too. I highly doubt it. I really think, like you said, it's going to go through Indy, and we know Pittsburgh is scrappy. So it's either Detroit drops way off, Indy doesn't turn it on, and then that's not even looking at the teams behind us. Could Birmingham pick it up and finally get things to click? It worked for Hartford. It's working for Colo Spigs now. So nothing is impossible right now. We are still in control of our destiny. But weirdly enough, when we say must win, I don't even think this is a must win at this point, Jason. I think we need to win a majority of the remainder of the games. And what we can't do is we can't lose any match. I think we're going to need points from every single game left, or we're going to have to win 4 in a row, and then we can lose 3 somewhere along the lines. Some of these teams are still beatable. I still really believe that we can beat teams like Miami and Tampa, which have fallen off the cliff. I wouldn't be surprised if we get draws against El Paso. They're 4th. New Mexico is back to 3rd. Again, we don't do terrible on baseball diamond pitches, but we also don't do amazing. And then the wild card will probably be North Carolina. I just don't know if they're good enough. I mean, they've been holding on to a home playoff berth, but I don't know if they'll continue to. This game right here is the one that matters the most. And then next week we'll talk about how that game matters the most. But this game may be, like you said, the tide will change here one direction or the other. So as we talk about this, Indy 11 is in 8th place in the Eastern Conference with 26 points from 23 matches. RIFC still in 9th place outside that playoff line with 24 points. Indy's slender 2-point lead is a cushion, but it's a precarious spot because they know that Rhode Island FC is going to want to really put the hurt on this week if they can find a way. RIFC now, though, 6-6-11. These losses continue to stack. And that's not even talking about the Jagermeister Cup, right? That's a completely different type of loss. The scary part, though, we've only scored 2 goals since August 1st, Jason. We've only scored 2 goals.
Cursed stat right there.
It's not good. It's not, and I won't even tell you how many goals we've let in because Hartford is in that time too. Here's where it gets weird. Indy 11 on a 7-5-11 record. Not much better. Basically, 1 victory is what's holding them over us. They haven't been a consistent team all season. That's going to be the talking point here as we go through it. They did snap Hartford's winning streak, but then they went on and faced Charleston. They went on and faced Lou City themselves, and they got beat up just along the same way as we did. Across their last 5 performances, though, and this is the thing about Indy, they've scored 10 goals. across their last 5, but they've let in 9. This team is capable of finding the back of the net any given day, but they're also more than capable of allowing a goal across any single match. And if you remember, and I know we're going to talk about it here in the head-to-head, but these two teams combined probably have the highest amount of goals scored between us and any other team, and that includes Miami when you look at totals on each side. So these two teams love to go at each other, and we've seen 3-3s, 3-2s. We've also seen some 1-0 stinkers, but these two teams like to go after each other.
Yeah, and when we kind of review the head-to-head in regards to this season, Indy's definitely leading with that 1-0 victory back in July. If we look at the overall history with 4 official meetings, like you said, 2 victories for Indy 11, 1 win for RIFC, and that kind of crazy 3-3 draw last year, July 5th. That was
my favorite game of last season. That wasn't a victory.
That was a wild one.
And remember too, the win we have was the most critical, right? That was a postseason victory.
Absolutely.
I'll take losing or drawing if we can beat you in the playoffs where it matters. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, and so like you had mentioned, and we combined all these encounters, 13 goals in total. Indy scoring 7, Rhode Island scoring 6, averaging that's about 3.25 goals per game.
I'll take it.
Entertainment.
For those of you that, well, we'll see, because that's what we've been asking for, right? For those of you that forget the last time we saw Indy 11 on July 12th, we kind of thought like Sacramento, this would be a springboard for them after they beat us 1-0. But they've had their highs, but they've had their lows. They haven't gained any momentum, and the pattern's been really clear. If you go back and look at their fixture schedule, it's a win, it's a loss, it's a win, it's a loss, it's a draw, a win, a loss. Like they feel very reminiscent of our team, where again we've only strung together 2 wins back to back, just one time this season, though. And at least they score goals along the way. Weirdly enough, and they did do really bad in the Jagermeister Cup. I mean, maybe that was a blessing since we've now had to play 2 extra games and we have nothing to show for it. That's not a fun thing to have to say out loud. But really, when we talk about Indy 11, you have to pay attention to Jack Blake. He has been the driving force behind it. Some teams, they share the goal wealth, the goal contribution wealth. This team is firmly built around the high-flying antics of one Jack Blake. But that being said, even he isn't able to be consistent. And when he's not on, or when teams find ways to shut him down, the team starts to suffer for it. And September hasn't been any better as far as narratives go. They did get that win, like I said, putting Hartford in its place. But after that, they've just been on losses ever since. So this 6-point swing for us is just as important for them to create kind of that, gap that they don't want to see us or any other team behind us try to sniff out and catch back up to. So it's a big stake here on the week. Jason, tactically, it's been a minute. Remind fans what you've seen and what they like to do here on that side.
I mean, yeah, just to kind of tie into who we were just talking about, Jack Blake. He's kind of their creativity through that midfield. You give him too much space, like he's going to surge through it. You give him too many set pieces, he's going to create opportunities. But with that inconsistency, if you can kind of neutralize him, Indy's offense can kind of stall there. Indy is very much a high octane team. All gas, no brakes to a certain extent. They love to hit out on the counter, but because of that, they maybe commit a little too many people forward, and they can have some defensive vulnerability in transition. We saw it recently when we were previewing Louisville's game, talking about they created a lot of opportunities against Louisville, and maybe with a little more clinicalness, they could have capitalized. But in the same vein, Louisville was punishing them on the other end of it. So they don't have that balance of, high offense, but also like we can keep it shut down at the back.
It's high risk, high reward with this team. And that's why you see the goal differential in the position it's in. I feel like the reason why is, you said a second ago that they catch them in transition. I completely agree, but I think that also starts from an ineffective press that they continue to try. So they're trying to catch their opponents in their own final third. They're trying to catch them in their transition as they want to break out. But when that fails, that's where Indy continues to get caught on the back foot themselves, and it becomes a problem. I think the only thing other than that I didn't hear you say that I would say of note is they feel like us too, where they want to engage the wings. I wouldn't say that I think they're much more even in their wing play in terms of side, but they just can't find.
They have a right side?
They do have a right side, but they can't find service in the box. They're just like us. They're a little bit better than us, but the service is somewhat inconsistent in the quality, and then they just can't put the head to the ball and get it in the back of the net. Most of their goals come from the run of play, but from direct passing and taking defenders on direct. It's not usually coming from winning anything in the air and then crosses in. It does happen, and you can tell that the team wants to make that happen from the way they put their wingers out. It just doesn't connect. So like I said, Jack Blake really taking this team on his back at times to find a way to score goals. Let's quickly go through the ref assignments and then get you guys ready for what we think will be the formations and players.
Yeah, head ref here is going to be Rodrigo Albuquerque. New Mexico's coming to town.
He's never allowed to coach, or he's never allowed to cover a New Mexico game. That is bias of the highest order.
We're going to have to do some research. I wonder.
Every win.
Anyways, assistant ref, Matoyas Dolsky and Jonathan Smith, with the fourth official being Jonathan Luck.
Yeah, and in that injury we have right now for the list, Cole Dewhurst off, Frank Nadarce now off. Albert Dikwa continues to be on there with that abdominal strain. I don't know what the length
we
on
didn't
that
really
is.
Get any timelines in regards to what's going on there.
Yeah. And then Rio Hope Gunn was added to the list on this last match. Saw him in the hallway afterwards. He didn't look like there was any, brace or repair work on him. Maybe it's something that he's nursing. I don't have any information on Indy, so I cannot share that. Jason, do we even want to go through a roster prediction?
I mean, it's guaranteed to be wrong, so let's just do it anyway. Koke Vegas and net, because obviously that's where we're getting our bread and butter right now is that back line with Hugo Bacharach, Karifa Yao, and Aime Mabika. I think with Grant Stoneman just coming back from injury, he probably doesn't get right back into it. I think we switch to that back
especially
three.
With a midweek game.
Yeah, maybe he'll get some late garbage time minutes. Midfield 4, Clay Holstad, Zach Harivo, Marky Barr, and Aldair Sanchez. Maxi Rodriguez, JJ Williams. They will push AST up front there.
He played deep in this match, played a more of a midfield role the prior. Now maybe he's back in that front
same
three
thing.
Again.
It's a long three games 1 week. We'll probably see Busy as well too. There'll be some swaps there, but for some rotation purposes, we think this is probably pretty close to what they're going to put out there.
Do we imagine Jojea gets like a halftime sub? He should be coming back now after his match against Rwanda.
Historically, we've seen that coach does not put him right back in after those long weeks, especially with all of that travel. Maybe some 20 minutes at the end of the game, if there's an opportunity to kind of go at some tired legs.
If a game's also a must win at this point in the season too. From the other side of things here with Indy 11, we've got this down as a 3-4-3, similar to Rhode Island. Hunter Solt very much going to be the keeper in net, with Benjamin Ofemu, Josh O'Brien, and James Musa on their back three. Bruno Rendon has been playing on the right midfield side of the four. He's been getting subbed out recently in some matches or been relegated to a substitute role. It'll be interesting to see if he gets the starting nod. I think he's the better player of the group from the games I've been watching. But then you'll have James Murphy, Cameron Lindley, and Aiden Quinn. Aiden Quinn has been just a force to be reckoned with in their midfield off that left midfield side. He tucks in. He does a lot of things, a lot of chance creation and support for Indy's attack. Up front right now, Jack Blake will definitely be in the center column. There's a couple of different weapons off the bench. I think it'll be Malik Foster and Romario Williams, but you've also got Elvis Ammo. You've got a couple other contenders that you could see make a difference there. But right now the offense, it doesn't matter who you're selecting. That midfield and front three linkage is solid, and they've been scoring goals left and right. It's really that back line in Ofemu, O'Brien, and Musa that probably wish they were keeping things a little bit cleaner this season.
Yeah, Indy does have some reinforcements on the way, though. They ended up grabbing themselves an MLS product post-Leagues Cup in the form of 22-year-old Joey Zielinski on loan from St. Louis City SC for the rest of the season. Spoiler, they've been really bad, though. So I don't know
how good of a signing that is. Yeah.
that's a gamble there.
I mean,
in a
if the
sense.
LA Galaxy weren't in last place, I think St. Louis would be a contender for that spot.
Yeah, they're borderline wooden spoon there. He did feature in 9 MLS matches and 11 more with City 2 and MLS Next Pro. Also, though, on loan, FC Cincinnati 2 defender Brian Schaefer. I mean, we've also talked about how Indy's defense is kind of letting them down too. So, hey, at this point, they're probably trying anything they can do to really reinforce that back line. It's hard to say if they're going to have an immediate impact or similar to the signings we talked about earlier. These are, for the future, but Indy's defense is one of the worst. So
it is the worst, actually. Fun fact. They lead in clearances. They lead in goals scored against. It is a dumpster fire. So this is that conversation you have where like it's the unstoppable
so
force.
What you're saying is we can't score
object.
Against them. It's
you kind of have to ask yourself, because while they have one of the worst defenses in the league, they also have one of the best offenses. They've now scored in 21 of their 23 games. No team has actually done that, not even Lou and Charleston. So they are, at least from a scoring threshold, when you talk about spreading it across games, they are the best team in the league. So again, what breaks first, a good offense or a good defense? It'll be interesting to say. That being said, back to the defense here with Indy, though, the danger here and where Rhode Island really can shine if they can play a complete game here, Indy cannot hold on to leads once they've scored. They've now lost 20 points from winning positions this season, and no other team comes close to that. So, like, they're good to go up first. It reminds me of like teams that score in the first 15 minutes and then they don't.
You score too early.
They don't grow into the game, and then the game gets away from them. Weirdly enough, though, too, when you look at also, I feel like maybe there's a tactical issue with Indy on how to adjust to the substitutions that the opponent will put in. So, like, looking at what Connor Smith may be able to deploy off the bench, Indy has also conceded 10 goals from substitutes this season. Again, no other team has suffered through that. Ironically, too, a lot of them come in the first 15 minutes of the second half. So it seems like teams maybe get their nose punched. They go into the locker room. They go, okay, we're going to make these tactical adjustments. They come back out, and Indy just gets caught flat-footed with their pants down going, what just happened? So it's an interesting thing to see. Those 12 goals, by the way, that have been conceded by those substitutes, that's also another terrible stat. So, like, Indy flying high and sinking low at the same time. Can they meet in the middle against Rhode Island FC? I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. It's going to be an interesting match, to say the least. The worst offense against the worst defense.
I like how you didn't go best and best. You went worst and worst. I now know where you're at on the glass half full, half empty. We need.
It's been a long season.
Someone check in on Jason tomorrow. Okay, everyone give him some power of positivity and some words of encouragement. Jason, I'm going to start things off here and talk about how RFC can exactly get 3 points, the very needed, most important 3 points of the season here.
You've
in
got
this
the
match.
blueprint.
I mean, if Kana wants to listen to me, I've got the key takeaways. But one, you have to isolate and just subjugate Jack Blake. Like, when we think about what he can do to teams, removing him is going to be your first order of business. And
mark him.
Rhode Island FC, but Rhode Island FC can do that, right? Rhode Island FC has demonstrated against Charleston, against other profile players.
Some people say that Nick Marcanic is still in our pocket.
Some people say. So if you can do that, but the difference, some strikers are just lone wolves. They're just poachers. Jack Blake is also a critical part of the buildup in Indy's attack. So if you can isolate him and remove him off the board, it's going to disrupt the rest of Indy's attack. I watched a lot of it. Again, they don't do crosses. They try, and it never works for them. They're all about build-up. They're
really
and sequence
like 23rd or 24th, I think.
Yeah. So when you look at that, isolating Jack Blake is priority number one. Second is they're going to have to be, again, anemic with the ball. I know Connor doesn't want to hear this, but this is a team that they want to catch you in transition, which means to counter that, you don't want to have the ball and then give a turnover or have any kind of field tilt that goes against you where the ball suddenly is going the other direction. Rhode Island FC, they got some tired legs this week with the Jagermeister Cup match. The defenders, with Amay being one of the ones who will most likely now start, you still have two other defenders who have been running a lot of miles this week. You're going to have to be careful about that. I think playing a team like this that wants the transition, you play the same thing against them, and then you just have chaos in the midfield. Like, let the battle be fought in the middle third, and don't let yourself get caught out of position in that transition. And then the other thing too is you can't fall for the traps, right? We talk about possession being anti-possession. As I mentioned earlier, they're really bad about a consistency with their press. Like, they start it, like, remember how we talked about Sacramento and how it's deliberate? Like, they go 15 minutes with it.
Yeah.
Then they kind of break down a little bit. Like, they change their tempo and then they go back at it again. That is tactical. Like, it feels inconsistent, but it's like timed press. Indy just seems to be like punch drunk, and they just go for it for a little bit, and they go, okay, hold on, let's resort, let's get this figured out. Then they just go for it again. It feels random and chaotic, and so
Entropy.
But that can put them out of sorts as well. But it can also lure teams into like a false sense of security and bravado. So especially as a possession-based team, if suddenly you think, oh, we know what Indy's all about, and then they just turn on the press for a second, you can't get caught by that trap. You have to be able to stay calm in those moments. I think Rhode Island does a great job about staying calm in that. But when the press comes, you can't just hold on to the ball. Otherwise, you've got to be brave, like you said earlier. You got to find that cut pass. You got to find that through line, and you got to connect to the front attackers. However many we put on the field, that's Kano's decision. But I think those are the things that will help dishevel Indy 11 and then isolating their attackers. I think that's the way to get this. And I think this will be like a really low scoring game. I know we've talked about high scoring games. That will happen if Coach Kano does everything opposite of what I just said. And we just, go straight for it. Then this will be a bloodbath of a certain extent. I don't know what will happen. But if he does those other things and he wants to hire me as a technical staff member, that's how he gets the win here. That's how he gets a complete performance win. What do you got?
I would be a little more straightforward and not get too deep into it. Like, this team has shown they can defend, right? Like, we are fourth best. We're very good at that. Indy has shown that they can score. So at that point, you believe that, all right, they're probably good for at least one, unless we're trying to like absolutely play for a 0-0. So it's pretty straightforward. This team needs to score. Exactly how does that work? That, I think, is the missing piece that Kano and I imagine a lot of the other players are asking for. But, I think we saw some glimpses of what this team could do in regards to, like, they need to play faster, right? We don't hold on the ball for too long. Take a few touches, dribble the ball up, find an open man, and just move the ball forward and take shots. Like,
it'll never happen.
We have to score. Like, it's as simple as that. Because the defense is going to do what the defense is going to do, right? It's already solid. Koke's going to stand on his head. Our defenders are going to fight, every challenge and ball. And, there's a good chance that we could, only let in 1 or even 0 against Indy. A very strong attack. But if we don't score, we will not win this game.
Only time will tell.
It's stupid as that, but that's literally all we need to do.
Only time will tell. Reminder, the action does kick off at 7 p.m. this weekend at Centerville Bank Stadium. Gates opening at 6 p.m. If you're not making it to the game, you can catch the match on my RITV, ESPN Plus, and 790 The Score. I had a really good time at High Motor Grill. I may go, and as long as you're willing, I think that may be a place to go and hang out and just meet some new folks. It was a really great experience, and I was really excited to be a part of that action over there. We've got defender Hugo Bacharach on the podcast joining us on Monday, so that'll be exciting. Look forward to our conversation with him. And Jason, what's the final word?
Let's go out there and let's salvage this season. Let's get a win. Let's do it.
I'll take it.
All right, y'all. Make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, including RFC at theblazingmusket.com. I heard they had the one and only John Morrissey today. You should check that out. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, and TikTok at RAFC Podcast, Blue Sky as well. We have an Instagram. It's at Raising Anchor. We've got a website. You know it, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchor's up, y'all. Let's go.
Anchor's up. Catch you guys later.